Seeing Vosh talk about this Tory Lanez situation and hearing Hassan and all those people, it really is insane to me how apparent the cultural divide is between white folks and black folks, especially the white folks on Twitch. So in this situation, it's crazy because Vosh opens up talking about how I don't understand why she wouldn't tell. It seemed like she originally denied the fact that, and I don't care what happens if I'm shot at. I don't care about systemic anything. I'm gonna make sure that I tell. I'm gonna make sure that I talk to the police. Why would I withhold that kind of information? And he really doesn't get it. So, Megan Thee Stallion does music. She does hip hop music, which is obviously a black centered music. So when you listen to that type of music and that type of culture, then you can understand what is influencing her within this incident. So originally what happened was there was an altercation. Eventually a gun was fired. Megan Thee Stallion was injured and she had to go to the hospital. Now, when she originally claimed she had stepped on some glass, that's what she said. She said, I stepped on some glass and that's how I cut my foot. Because she was originally trying to protect everyone involved and she didn't want to be a snitch. Now, for a lot of people, this doesn't make a whole bunch of sense. Why would you not go ahead and explain what exactly happened to you? But the reason why you wouldn't do that is because of the cultural implications that's associated with snitching. You see, when I was looking up crime statistics and looking at murder statistics and things like that and the amount of convictions, what I discovered was that police have long been complaining about the fact that within black folks, they don't get a lot of cooperation. So then a lot of black murders end up going unsolved and undealt with because of the fact that black people refuse to cooperate with the police. Why is that? Well, obviously, over years and centuries of the police existing and having been used to be specifically antagonistic towards black folks, obviously black people don't trust the police. 9 times out of 10, if you encounter a police, he's going to immediately view you with suspicion and he's going to probably talk to you pretty poorly. I can say that for myself and all the traffic stops that I've gotten, that police tend to respond pretty poorly just to you being black. I cannot name how many times I've been put in the backseat of a police car while they run my tags or run my information. And it's like, yo, I have no priors. I'm a pretty articulate dude. I'm not particularly threatening, but something about just being black, they automatically do these kinds of things. So as a result, and the obvious harassment that police officers do in black neighborhoods, black people don't cooperate with police. All that to say, there's a reason why someone like Megan Thee Stallion wouldn't be so keen on cooperating with the police. Add to that we obviously have seen things that have happened when it comes to people snitching. For example, 6ix9ine. That dude decided that he was gonna snitch, and sure, he eventually got out of prison and thought that he was gonna be able to continue his rap career. And I think the hype of just the idea that he had gotten out of prison and so on and so forth, and he was releasing new tracks, made people listen, but it quickly died off. And people quickly completely distanced themselves from him, and now he's floundering pretty miserably. Snitching in the black community is seen as absolutely terrible. Megan Thee Stallion doing hip hop music and then thinking, yeah, I don't want to snitch because it's going to harm my career seems pretty well founded. Like I said, look at Snitch 9. So it makes sense why she would sit there and deny the fact that she was originally shot. So now you have the public who is all out here and they're just like, yo man, she's a liar, and there's all this nonsense about they don't trust her and so on and so forth. And I get it. You say, well, she opened up with a lie by saying that she wasn't shot, saying that she got her cuts by stepping on glass. Then you add to that the fact that she never physically saw Tory Lanez shoot her. Then you add to that the fact that she lied and said that she wasn't sleeping with Tory Lanez, and now people are like, oh, we just can't trust anything that comes out of her mouth. She's a liar. And I hear you. But it's just like, well, once we eventually got the information, we should probably be able to update. But no, it's so much easier to fool someone than it is to convince someone that they've been fooled. So on trial, the lawyer did a very smarmy thing, or a very sneaky thing. What he did was he said he started interviewing people and getting them to admit that they saw another person with the gun. Now, he didn't say that he saw them holding the gun, didn't say that he saw them pick up the gun, didn't say that they saw them shoot the gun. He just saw that person with the gun. With the gun means I was looking at the person and I could see the gun in the same shot. That means I saw them with the gun. Pretty smarmy, right? But if you say that enough in the public, then that's enough for the public who already is kind of given towards wanting to defend Tory Lanez, because we know how bad the system is against black folks. Then that makes them start saying, okay, so then now we know who the shooter was. Then you add to that you can start saying things like, hey, well, you know, Megan Thee Stallion lied. She lied about having slept with him. So it's like, so she's not credible. And she lied about being shot in the first place. There are still people to this day right now that don't believe that Megan Thee Stallion was shot. What happened was when she went and got operated on, they found pieces of the bullets. They found bullet fragments in her foot. And they had to remove those things. So at the end of the day, you can sit here and say, well, she wasn't shot directly, which is true. But I don't know if anybody knows this, but if you shoot asphalt or cement with a gun close enough to somebody, fragments of that asphalt and cement are going to then go into that person's foot. That happened to a cousin of mine. She couldn't walk for quite some time. Happened to another person I know. The cement penetrated her foot and she couldn't walk for a while. She had to be on a cast for quite a while. For Megan Thee Stallion, they found the fragments of the bullets, I think 4 fragments of the bullet, and obviously her foot was injured, and it wasn't just from those fragments. It probably would have been the cement and all the other things, whatever else was going into her foot. So she was shot indirectly. Now the question becomes, did Tory Lanez shoot her? It's crazy to me because even in that video that I was watching from Vosh, he couldn't even pronounce Lanez. He was saying Tory Lanez because he's so far removed from the situation, which is totally fine. Like, you don't have to know all these genres of music. We obviously know that these people are really connected from black issues, black music, black everything. It's totally fine. But my point being, like, Tory Lanez literally is allowing, like, through his lawyers and everything else, and just from the media, they're really trying their best to discredit everything that happened in this situation. So here are just the facts. The facts are there were bullet fragments in Megan Thee Stallion's foot. So whether you think she's a liar, whether you want to say she's a thought for having slept with Tory Lanez and lying about it, whether you want to call her a snitch, that fact can't be denied. She's saying that she heard him saying dance B as he began firing at her. Now, we don't know for sure that happened, but that's what she's claiming. And I guess there were other witnesses there and they said they didn't hear it. Now, I want you to understand, other people saying I didn't hear it in this commotion is not the same thing as it didn't happen. It just means I can't corroborate it. But I mean, I guess, sure, that could just be a random detail she added in to make him look bad. Could be. Or maybe she's telling the truth and he's the one that shot at her. I haven't followed the trial enough to know all the information, but what I can say for certain is that she was shot, and that all this nonsense about trying to discredit her because she chose not to snitch, because she recognized the impact that could have, her being in the industry of hip hop and her being a black person and her snitching on a rapper, and the idea that would have no ramifications is crazy. For anyone listening to that and saying, I don't understand how she could do that, that just shows how little you know about black culture. Now, you can say, is it the wisest thing to do? Probably not, but it depends on what you want out of life. People make sacrifices for their careers and things like that all the time, and for their culture. She later on came out and said it. My culture and then my environment and all those things informed me that I was probably not supposed to tell on this dude. Sounds reasonable to me. I mean, I guess that really is what it boils down to. Like, hearing these other people give their takes and stuff on the situation and be so far removed from the culture that they can't understand what are these moving pieces sounds really silly to me. When you have a lawyer who's trying to discredit Megan Thee Stallion and saying she can't be trusted because she lied about this thing and she originally lied about being shot, so then we can't trust anything she's saying. Having him put out that message saying things like, yeah, you know, you saw her with the gun, is enough for the public to just say, I'm not sure, I don't know, there's a little bit of a doubt there. And that right there is enough to get people to completely try to discredit her in this whole situation. Now we're talking about free Tory. There comes a point where we have to recognize when people do bad enough things that we have to hold them accountable. And I guess I'll probably do some more research to determine if that's the case. I'm immediately like second guessing anytime people talk about free anybody, because people talking about free R. Kelly. And sure, he didn't deserve RICO charges, but you can't say he ain't touched no kids. Maybe not in his most recent situation. Those were adults. And I don't know about those, but I'm pretty sure most of us saw that video back in the day, probably downloaded it on Kazaa, and sat there and watched and recognized that this was a grown man with that girl in that situation. I was a kid at the time watching that nonsense. We know he did what the freak he did, but we gotta hold people accountable when they've actually done wrong. And this seems like a situation where someone needed to be held accountable because she was absolutely shot. If it wasn't Tory, then it had to have been the other woman in the situation, whom Tory refuses to indicate. He immediately apologized as soon as he got out of prison. He called her as soon as he got out of jail. He called her while he was in jail and apologized to her too. Come on, y'all. Let's hold some folks accountable here.
This deep and floating to my